This is what the media isn't showing you.
This is how civilizations die.
How is it going to affect us?
It is going to be a shock, a huge shock, when our generation ages and there's no one there to do important services.
It's going to create a housing crisis.
Feminism did change the memes and the culture, but at the same time, no one talks about when you introduce birth control into a society, and in a couple generations, that means that our population has shrunk by half.
If you say you're a stay-at-home mom, it's like it's frowned upon in a lot of areas in the country, and it's like, how bad is our birth decline?
Oh, it is shockingly bad. So we are now at 1.6 per woman. Our replacement rate is 2.1.
I thought we were at 2.1.
It's been about, I think, 8 years that we passed the 2.1. And then there was a mild uptick in COVID. So people were hopeful. They were thinking, well, maybe it was just an anomaly those last few years. But then there was a steep decline since COVID as well. So yeah, we're at 1.6. And the millennials, I mean, the millennial generation, I think it's something like, we're older millennials. We're like, I think it's 1980 to 1986 is called the elder millennial generation. Something like 58% of us have children. That's the lowest in history. So it is going to be a shock, a huge shock, when our generation ages and there's no one there to do important services. I mean, like there's a lot of not only economic reasons, but just like the social fabric of what's about to happen of not having children. I mean, this is how civilizations die.
Let's go into it. How is it going to affect us?
So
this isn't something I've talked about.
Yeah. So one, it's the economic situation is going to get very bad. When you think of, the boomers are the largest, I think, generational cohort. They're living longer than they ever have. They're healthier, but they're getting to ages, right? Like, who takes care of boomers when they're in their 80s and 90s? They're in nursing homes. You need service workers. You need people to be able to take care of these aging people, right? It used to be that you were taken care of in the family. We don't do that anymore. Now we have nursing homes, right? Like, it's very rare that someone moves in when they're at a certain age with their children and are taken care of. So those jobs, which used to be filled by service workers, there's no one who's going to be able to fill that. On every economic dimension, if you do not have a generation of workers, of people paying into the system, Social Security, I mean, Social Security is a huge issue, but if you don't have people paying into the system, doing the labor, being able to do the things for the elder generation, society starts crumbling. And then there's, of course, the social ramifications of not having families. I'm a firm believer that the most important institution in America is the family. The family used to exist to take care of the people who were weakest, right? Like, it's like, you used to have these big families, and, sometimes the weakest child would still be living with mom and dad at home, and that was okay. You sort of had empathy for them, but it was the family's responsibility to take care of these people. We quickly moved that to now it's the state's responsibility to take care of these people who may be sick in some way, may be unable to provide for themselves in some way, might have psychological issues. Now the state has to take care of them, which is why you see a lot of these people on the street now, because the state does a terrible job of taking care of these people. But as fewer and fewer children exist, it's like you're not going to have a society that can provide for itself, that can continue into perpetuity. And, the exponential decline of this too, where it's like, it sounds, oh, well, we went from 2.1 to 1.6. That can't be that bad. I mean, in a couple generations, that means that our population has shrunk by half.
In a couple of generations?
And the best example of this, and I wish I had the numbers in front of me, is South Korea. So South Korea, I think their birth rate is the lowest of any country, any industrialized country. I think it's 0.9. And when you have fewer and fewer people, no one's doing the jobs. Japan is also heading this way. Their birth rate's quite low. The only sort of argument that people make as sort of the bright side of this that could potentially make up for both the labor loss and also just the civilizational collapse is robotics, right? Like, you could have robots do a lot of these jobs. But I think it is a very dangerous thing to say we're going to depend on automation and robotics to make up for the fact that humans are disappearing.
I mean, even China's dealing with this. They had the one-child birth policy, and then they boarded all of the girls. Yep. So now they just have
extremely short-sighted. I think the bulk. We're always talking about how dangerous China is, how China is growing in power and importance. The most short-sighted thing they have ever done to their society that will eventually catch up with them is the demographic collapse that they are going to feel because of one child. Like they're trying everything now too. They're trying to end divorce, right? Like so there's now a policy, at least that I read about in China, where you have to have like a 90-day cool down period so that you don't divorce. They're trying to encourage young women to have children. Young women don't want to have children.
They're bringing in women from other countries, from what I understand.
Yeah.
They're sending them out to go find wives in the Philippines, Thailand,
Yeah.
Japan, everywhere.
Yeah. But they recognize it's a massive problem, and probably recognized it before even we did. I think in some ways the conversation sort of hopped from the social conservative sort of church going movement of gosh, like this is a huge problem, to sort of I would say the sort of techno optimist Elon Musk talking about the birth rate as a big deal. It's now become sort of, I think, an issue that's okay for polite society and sort of liberal New York Times to be talking about. Like this is actually a real issue. So. First step is acknowledging it, but it is, 1.6 is a long way to come back from, especially with a millennial generation that, waited way too long to have children. I think the kind of there's a couple underlying factors that I don't think we talk enough about that have caused this. Is when you look at sort of our parents' generation, a lot of people didn't go to college. They started adulthood at 18. And sort of the sort of, fertile window, you could say, for women was between 18 and 40, say. Like that was sort of the nominal window of when you could have children and it was socially acceptable. And then we had this incredible push against fertility and against, having a family young that I think the millennials really caught wind of. It's like everyone needs to go to college, extended adolescence, like use your 20s to experiment and enjoy life. Like you don't really need to be focused on having a family. And what happened is the average age now of a first-time, I think, mother in America is 28. So 10 years after that, 18. So you've cut the window in half. The average age of a first-time father in America, I think, is 31. And that's for both college-educated and not college-educated. If you add on college on that, which I think is a real issue, it's even higher. It's like the average age of a first-time mother is 30. So you can understand how the birth rate's being cut in half if the entire window of when you can have children is cut in half. Because people are so focused on career and, finding themselves and sort of their extended adolescence rather than focusing on building a family earlier. You're just going to have fewer children. And then when you have fewer marriages, that also cuts it. So it's fewer people getting married, fewer people are going to decide to have children, which from a millennial perspective, to have 58% of people only having kids, I mean, that's compared to, what 89% of our parents' generation had children.
Wow. Do you know if the baby boomer generation are they still the biggest?
I believe they're still the biggest, yeah.
So this has always been a question about that I've had is just, what it's just real estate, but I mean, you see all these 55 plus communities being built. I mean, you live in Florida. I came from Florida.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, the Villages is like, about the Villages.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
what is going to happen to all these 55 plus communities when that massive generation dies off?
Yeah.
I mean, are we just going to have, it's going to create a housing crisis.
Yeah. I think it'll be a housing crisis, fewer people, and also like are millennials going to want to, the millennials and Gen X, or Gen X is actually a pretty small generation. Are they going to want to move into those places? Definitely not. In some ways, the bigger question, I think, is also, and I know you've had people on who've talked about longevity. People are living a lot longer too, which means they're going to have to work a lot longer, which means they have to be healthier for a lot longer. And so, if you have people living a lot longer and fewer people who are being born, it's just, it's society inverts on itself. You have a very top-heavy society of people who are older who can't do the work that needs to be done to actually protect a country.
Has any nation reversed this?
Not like I haven't seen anything recently successfully. There have been some attempts, like, some people have pointed to countries like Hungary that are now paying. I think there's a policy in Hungary where if you have more than 4 children, you don't have to pay taxes. There's some extreme policies where you've seen that. The one anomaly in the Western world or in the industrialized world where they are well above birth rate replacement is Israel. And so there's questions about, is it because it's a religious society? They have a pretty large religious Orthodox community, right, that kind of makes up for the rest of the secular society that doesn't have children. If you have a family of 8 and 9 and 10, that's 10% of your population, then you can make up for some who are not having any. But we don't have that. in America. We don't have as many, I would say we have more than Europe, which Europe is really the
They're
continent.
really on the decline, though.
Really on the decline.
I mean, the Islamic population is reproducing at a massive rate.
Yes, but even counting immigrant and Islamic population in Europe, they're still at countries. I think Italy's 1.2. I think France is 1.5. Everyone always looks at the Nordic nations as sort of the beacon of how we should be doing policy in the U.S. because they pay for free healthcare for mothers. They pay for free IVF, different things that that people say we should experiment with. Their population decline is worse than ours. They're at 1.2, 1.3, 1.5. And so I think what's fascinating to me about this is that this isn't a country-specific problem or a cultural-specific problem. It's really all industrialized nations. And, there's probably healthcare reasons for it. There's a lot of research about...
I think men are 70% less, have a fertility rate of like 70% less than it was roughly about 100 years ago.
Yeah. Sperm counts are down. The sort of fertile window for women, again, cut in half. So there's something about the medical side of this and the health side of this that's also happening. But you can't ignore the memes and sort of the cultural destruction that happened since the 1970s, in my opinion, which is family bad, individual good, right? Mm-hmm. Like you shouldn't have to sacrifice yourself for the needs of your family. And the minute that people across the Western world started believing in sort of this like individualism, that's where you see just the family completely destroyed. And just fewer and fewer families means fewer and fewer children. And we're finally waking up to the consequences of that, which is a society that can't, grow its GDP. I mean, the economist version of this is it's a society that can't grow its GDP and that can't remain successful. But I think the human part of this is it's a dying society. It's a frail society.
I mean, how do we fix it?
I think you have to change the culture. I think you cannot change a spiritual and a cultural problem with economic policies. So the sort of easy answers that a lot of economists and sort of people who study this say is, okay, well, we need to make healthcare free, make birth free, make women feel more, feel that they have more benefits, maybe pay women to do work, right? Like pay them to stay at home. And, some of those ideas, like, I could say our healthcare system is expensive. It is expensive to have a baby in America. So making that cheaper on the margins, might affect a mother who says, okay, I have 2 children, maybe I want to have a third. But I actually think the bigger problem is cultural and spiritual.
I think it's the culture too. I mean, I think it stemmed from, the feminist movement.
Yeah.
Where it was get out, get a job, provide for yourself. You can do everything, which, yes, but it detoured women from having children.
Yeah.
And then women that do have children, I mean, it's almost like, me and my wife talk about this all the time. If you say you're a stay-at-home mom, it's like it's frowned upon in a lot of areas in the country. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking? Like frowning upon on a stay-at-home mom. I mean, what's more important than raising your kids?
Yeah.
And then I don't even know how single mothers do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the hardest job in the world.
It's you have to make it okay, and you have to take care of the single moms out there.
Totally.
It's scary.
Totally.
And I think about it. It's terrifying. I don't know how they make ends meet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the culture change is paramount for that. But
a lot of the research, it's always fascinating to me, the things you can't talk about. We can talk about the problem, but there's certain things we can't talk about that add to it. And you'll see, economics is always a thing people want to talk about because it's like, oh, well, if we could just fix it with an economic policy. But no one ever talks about what you said, which is that feminism did change the memes and the culture. But at the same time, no one talks about when you introduce birth control into a society and tell women, you can control your own destiny. That is a huge part of it. Like all of these declines in the industrial world started at the exact same time that the pill was introduced. So, we're not going to go back to a world that is pre-pill. Like that's just never going to happen across, both Western society and the industrial world. But I think you actually have to acknowledge all of the factors. And the fact that a lot of the people doing this research won't even acknowledge, something magical changed in the 60s and the 70s related to healthcare, related to how abortion was made legal in 1973. Other nations followed. When you you look at those as inputs into the story as well, it's like there's a reason why the birth rate is so low in these countries.
No matter where you're watching Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.